We're putting the band back together.
Forget it. No way. We're on a mission from God.
Welcome to After Dark with Jamie and Clint, a podcast where our hosts examine questions about the Christian faith. Questions that are not easy to ask and even harder to answer. No topic is off limits. Contents of this podcast may cause you to rethink long-held beliefs. Listener discretion is advised. And now, here's Jamie and Clint.
All right. Thank you, Delroy. Hey, not only I got to make sure I don't hit the table because it makes our camera bounce.
Yeah, it does.
You can only hear us. You can see us now. This is After Dark with Jamie and Clint. I'm Clint. He's Jamie.
Still Jamie.
And I guess it's big too. Hey, Delroy, tell our listeners and our viewers who's the sponsor for tonight's episode.
Tonight's episode is brought to you by 3 Nuns Tobacco. There's none nicer.
There you go. Thank you, Delroy. I appreciate that. Your hard work. Delroy's a hard worker. Matter of fact, he laid these bricks.
Every one
of them. He did every one of them. I didn't know if you knew it, but I knew Delroy was a bricklayer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I saw him play basketball.
That is just dad jokes for days, man. Dad jokes for days.
And he
So raw.
Added me for that.
He will.
All right. Hey, some of you may recognize me. Some of you may recognize me from this movie here. That is me sharing the screen with Kevin Costner and Kim Robbins. I was player number 3.
Is that really you?
No, it's not. It's not fair to me. Hey, but I got
that fool looking at my face. It's crazy.
I was the original. Here you go. Here it is. I was the original World's Most Interesting Man. The ad agency pitched it to Dos Equis. Dos Equis said, "Hey, this is a Mexican beer. We want a Mexican person." And I thought that was racist, so I sued them, and I won a cool $1.52, not million dollars. Yeah, they offered $1.50, and I said no. I held out, and I squeezed another 2 cents out of them. I'm a tough negotiator.
I tell you what, man.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
I won't even buy you one.
I won't buy me one, no.
Nah.
Not these days, anyway. How you been?
Dude, I've been so wide open. How about you? We both been doing a lot of traveling lately.
Yeah,
been on the road a lot, man. I'm a little tired. How about you?
I am. One of the things with especially with my job is when I take time off. Yeah, I come back. Everything that went on while I was gone is waiting for me when I get back.
Same.
And so it's just piled up. So
yeah,
when I come back, my first week back is it's a 5-day work week with 10 days of work.
So you don't have anybody to like pick up your slack or help you out?
No, no.
You need to hire Delroy into that space, man. Delroy will help you out,
Yeah, you just can't hire Delroy to play basketball.
So wrong.
Yeah.
Bricklayer.
He's the bricklayer.
Are my eyes crossed? Or is it just my furrowed brow, man? That's what I'm looking at. Like, is that my... I don't know.
This might not be a good idea.
This is great. I'm just getting used to it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, tonight's, the topic of tonight's conversation actually came to us from one of our listeners.
I love those.
Yeah.
I love the listener submissions.
I didn't, I like it because I don't have to try to dig around and figure out what in the world we want to talk about.
Well, that, and you want to see what's really on people's hearts, right? What's on people's minds. So, like, if you guys have something now that you can see us, send it in. Make a request. Give a suggestion.
Yeah, well, we'll do our best.
Yeah.
So
what's tonight?
Tonight's topic of conversation is the myth and mystery of Jesus.
The myth and the mystery of Jesus. So, okay, you're gonna have to set this up.
Yeah.
Myth. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I did that on purpose. I did that on purpose, and I'm pretty sure that some of you are listening or watching simply because you saw the title. Just like with God is not in control. I suckered you in a little bit, maybe.
Bait and switch.
Yeah.
Bait and switch.
It's about the myths of Jesus. Things that people have wrong about him, and we'll go, and then there's the mystery, and it's what about this, or what did he this?
And I will say, you're probably going to cover some of this, and this is something that I've actually grown to enjoy that we do, where you're like big time prepared, always prepared. I like to come in off the cuff sometimes, but you've done that too.
Yeah.
And it can be really fun for at least one of us to be like, I have no clue what's about to happen, and we explore together,
Yeah.
But we have to have some preparation. Maybe you're going to cover this later, but when I think about the myth, there's been the whole debate when people try to debate our faith in Jesus and the reality of God, that Jesus didn't really exist. I still hear that, and I'm going, there's no doubt that he existed as a person, Roman court records and stuff like that. So there's no doubt. So when I think myth, I'm like, well, he wasn't a myth as far as a person. He existed.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're going to cover that or not.
Yeah, well, no, we may get to it. I've got, there's a list here. Our listener was, look at this, and so, hey, it's your fault. So here you go, Phil. This is for you, brother.
Love you, Phil.
So, the myth of, Jesus is not that, whether he existed or not, but more of, things have gotten wrong.
Yeah. I got you.
Number one, and I wish, that I had a picture of you, making this stand. Jesus was not portrayed, or Jesus was not really how he was portrayed in the Renaissance paintings. And you
mean like a feminine white guy?
Yeah, you do that. You do that. No, the other one where you do like it.
I think it's like, yeah.
But so,
and if that offends you because I said a feminine white guy, we should be offended at the way he's being portrayed. In a way,
well, I really think, I'm gonna get off topic here for a moment, but there really is I think Satan has really attacked the masculinity of the human race, and I don't know how else to say it, but just the pull the fangs off, pull the claws off the lion. It's de-manning man.
Yeah.
I think it's a considerable effort.
There's been this thing around called toxic masculinity for a while now.
Yeah.
And I agree, some masculinity can be anything can be in extreme and overboard.
Oh, absolutely.
And all of that stuff, all things in moderation. But there's nothing wrong with men being men.
Yeah.
And Jesus was a man. He was a man's man.
Yeah.
That's what I like. He was a dude.
And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But particularly what our listener was asking about was, they didn't think that, obviously wasn't that Jesus wasn't how he was portrayed or how he was painted, like in these Renaissance paintings.
Yeah.
Like you talked about, a white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And a really weak, frail, anemic person.
Anemic.
Yeah, I feel like yeah.
Hey, can I throw something in there real quick?
Sure.
I'm a big Fred Sanford fan. Sanford and Son.
Oh, leather.
My papa loved it. We'd watch it together at night, reruns and stuff, when I was a kid. So I watch it now. I love it. And Fred Sanford, he said, telling Lamont, he said, hey, Jesus was not a white guy. He said, how do you know? He said, there's no way a white guy hung around Jerusalem with no hat for 33 years and stayed white. I said, hey, that makes sense. So there's no way he's pasty, But I did hear this too, that a lot of the artists, and you're big on this stuff, and I'm not. I just heard this, that they would paint, I guess, different figures, Jesus and others, kind of with their Their face or their features, is that what it was?
Yeah. One of my favorite stories, though, is the Sistine Chapel.
Oh, yeah.
I swear, I'm telling on myself, I swear, I was in college before I learned that it was Sistine Chapel and not 16 Chapel. I thought, where's the other 15 though?
16 Chapel.
That's Southern growing up right there. I tell 16 Chapel. But anyway, there's a great story when he's painting a mural on the ceiling, and the Archbishop for the Pope, he was coming by, and he was just on Michelangelo all the time, just
You're like, get this done, man.
yeah, and criticizing, well, don't you think his nose is too long, or those fingers too short, too fat? I was, oh yeah, he was critiquing like literally like everything, and so in the scene of hell, like if you look at the chapel, the entire from creation to judgment, creation starts toward the door and it goes, and then behind the altar, this judgment, kind of comes to. But in hell, there's a little demon in hell, and it's the Archbishop.
Oh, really?
He painted him. And he got away with it because he never even noticed it. It's still there. It's still there. I love that story. But anyway, yes, but they would use
themselves.
Leonardo da Vinci was very he was very bad about it. I wouldn't say bad, but he did that a lot.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, they think that maybe Mona Lisa
was him. That's gross.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'm just,
because if people have always said Mona Lisa, I'm gonna tell you this. I always said she was a beautiful woman. I was like, I don't know, man. I don't think I would date her. I used to think that. Now it makes sense because
I don't think a reputation or anything.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Well, it just had different views in the Renaissance.
I always older, eyesight gets weaker. Well, anyway, but yes, they would. But Phil, we will eventually get to the answer to your question. The reason that in the Renaissance, one of those famous paintings, he was portrayed like that. One was, yes, and they would use their own faces, but more of the body type. Yeah, like I said, being anemic and pasty and all this. They painted him that way on purpose. And it wasn't, honestly, they weren't trying to degrade or anything. It was an attempt to highlight the softer side of Jesus.
Okay.
If you think about the Renaissance was the opening of, art and, creativity, and less about conquering and war, and more about enlightenment.
Yeah.
And so they wanted more Prince of Peace, less Lion of Judah.
I got you. Because they were trying to downplay war and violence and all of that, and they wanted to be more about love and peace.
And compassion, and they wanted to have the like compassion visual.
Yeah.
So that you could see the medium and say, oh, it's, So
basically it was like a time period kind of thing. Like, this is the season for this. Mm-hmm. I get you. That makes sense.
And why he was pasty white, two reasons. Number one, he was pasty because that was considered a form of beauty.
Yeah, I've heard that
in that time. And the other reason he being white is because most people in the Renaissance would not believe or could not accept that the Savior was anybody other than a white person.
Well, and I will say, and I was thinking this when you started, and I was like, should I say this or not? But I'm going to say it. I don't think that this is what they meant to do, but it seems like that almost borders making God in our own image kind of a thing. The way what do you think about that?
Making relatable.
So not so much making an idol, but making them relatable.
Yeah. He looks like us.
Because I've seen people, African American people, I go in their homes and they'll have like an African American Jesus, African Jesus, whatever, black Jesus. And I'm like, it's no big deal. Some people will get offended, and I'm like, well, it's probably closer to the historical Jesus than this one. But it doesn't bother me. Like you said, it's relatable.
Yeah.
So
It reminds me of the song Chocolate Jesus. Beth Hart. Oh, you get some. Anyway, I'll tell you.
hey, I'll have to look that one up.
Look that one up. Chocolate Jesus, Beth Hart. All right.
I do like those chocolate Easter bunnies, the hollow ones.
Yeah,
Not the solid ones, the hollow ones.
Yeah, I love that meme. My butt hurts. What?
We better move on. The video has really thrown us off. And I was thinking this too. I almost got this shirt, and then my grandmother, I knew she would have beat me to death, but we used to go to like Hot Topic and Spencer's.
Yeah.
I was younger.
Yeah.
And they did have the Sistine Chapel thing. What was it? God touching Adam's finger.
Yeah.
Pull my finger.
Oh, remember that word? Yeah.
And I was going to get it, and I was like, man, I can't even sleep in the house tonight. So anyway.
Yeah. I got to tell you about flying in T-shirts.
Mm.
I don't think I've ever told you that.
That one?
It's a public service announcement.
Oh, okay.
You will have to, maybe one episode I'll explain it. It's a hack for flying.
Okay. I like hacks.
Yeah, it's a hack for flying.
I like hacks. What's our next?
Next question that Phil had, and like I said, it was, there was a list of, it kind of all rolls up into, the myth, but he had a good question. One that I really, I hadn't thought about since I had written my first book, Ex Deus Vita.
Hey, quick plug. Can I plug a book?
Yeah.
So Clint writes books. I've got a couple that I've been toying with, I told you about doing a publishing thing. I'd like to see that happen.
Yeah.
But this just came up over the weekend, and I'll tell you all about it later, but I'm going to work on one called Redneck Theology.
Redneck Theology.
I'll have to get some collaboration with you. Anyway, I just had to throw that out. I want to get your response.
Oh, my God.
Redneck Theology, man.
I love it.
He's worried about that. Forgive me. You can cut that out.
Don't baptize in the water you pee in. Our
first chapter.
Why was Jesus born of a virgin and not created like Adam?
So I have thought about the virgin birth before because that comes up, but I've never thought about why he wasn't created like Adam was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting on you, man. No. Don't throw that one on me, dude. No.
There's as with God, there's always it's like an onion. There's just layers and layers and layers that you pull from, and so I'm only going to touch the top layers of this. It gets really, really. But one of the things is God is big on remnants. Of leaving a portion back,
right?
And I as just a couple examples. One, the flood. Okay. He destroyed all of life on earth with the flood.
He kept just a small remnant. Yeah.
Oh, land. What now? I'm not talking about the fish in the sea, which they got away with it.
They got a what do you call that in sports? They got to buy.
Yeah. But he took a remnant. Noah, and I want to so bad get sidetracked into knowing his sons. I really do. I was like, but I won't. Anyway, so he had a rip, and in the end times, it talks about there's 144,000 Jews that will be saved, 12,000 from each tribe.
Right.
Remnant, God's big about remnant. And so there is with Jesus is called the second Adam. And, I hope I didn't write that incorrectly. I didn't check myself before I read it. In Romans chapter 5, he's called the second Adam.
Yeah.
And the remnant being that he is still part human. He has one human parent, so for Adam did not come from the human race. Adam began the human race. Adam was created sinless and became a sinful being. Now, from the sinful being came the sinless Jesus.
Sorry, my ears itching. Go ahead. Yeah, I got you.
You get what? I hope I don't like leave somebody and get them confused. But Adam was created sinless. He became sinful. Out of the sinful creation came the sinless Jesus. There's that remnant, but the reason why it was Mary had to be of a virgin because first of all the vessel had to be pure, it not necessarily that when I mean the vessel had to be pure, she couldn't have had children before,
right? That's right. Yeah.
Now, she could have had sex before, but not children. So she could have been a married woman with no kids yet, or, she could have been like, Abraham and Sarah, 99 years old and has Jesus comes, but the reason why, for that portion of it is there's no doubt. There's no, and Joseph, they're married and,
I get you. No doubt.
There's no doubt because so as a virgin, there's no doubt, but the vessel had to be pure, meaning there had to be no children before then. That gets into the bloodline. But see, we have a sinful nature. You don't have to teach a child to do wrong.
Yeah,
they inherently know. They're born knowing how.
Born meaning.
Yeah, you have to teach a child to do right. You have to teach. No, don't hit. Yes, share your toys. Listen to your mother. Listen to your dad. I remember when my oldest, when she was, I don't know, maybe 3 years old. We kept candy, and she loved Reese's, still does, and got a little bowl of Reese's, the individual Reese's, and she went and got one and opened it up, put it in her mouth, and threw the wrapper away, which I'm really proud of for a 3-year-old.
Oh yeah, that's pretty great.
Yeah. And anyway, but she come into the living, she had chocolate all over her face and all over her hands, And I said, "Baby, did you get some chocolate?" And I guess she assumed that she was about to get in trouble, So for her first instinct was, she goes, "Hmm." And I immediately thought, this child's 3 years old and knows how to lie. We don't teach her that. Like, hey, what are you learning to lie? It's sinful nature, and believe it or not, sinful nature is passed on through the bloodline. And it's from the father. So anytime you sin, you can blame your dad.
Whoa.
The sinful nature flows from the father to the child. And so that's why Jesus had no father, but that broke that line.
A physical father, yeah.
Yeah, physical father.
That's also why I guess it says that the sins of the father visited on the children, all that. Because it comes to
you inherit a sinful nature. Yeah. That's why Scripture also says, you're born into sin.
Born into it. Yeah.
That because that sinful nature, I don't understand it. For you Star Wars fans, like midichlorians or whatever. I don't know, but it's in the blood. It is in the DNA and the bloodline. And so when you father a child, you pass on that sinful nature. That child has sin in them. They're born. That's why they're born into sin.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So that's why Jesus was not born into sin, because he didn't have that bloodline. His bloodline, or his, it's come from his father, Heavenly Father. He was created in the womb.
That's great.
And
that's great. That's good.
So where Adam was created out of the dust, Jesus was created out of the womb of the dust. Anyway, it was, lineage stuff. I hope I answered that question.
I think you did. You showed me a lot of stuff I've not really, I guess, thought about before. I know about the second Adam, all of that, but to really think about why it was different, I haven't, and that was great.
Okay.
Now this next one.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. This
without even asking the question, no.
The next one I got you.
Yeah.
This one is going to be, now maybe some people have not heard of it, but a lot of people do dig around on Google. I've had some friends that say, well, what about this? So let's open up this one, because this is
anybody that's read the Da Vinci Code or seen the movie would
totally understand. Yeah.
Was Jesus and Mary Magdalene lovers? Or some people would say, well, they were married.
Mary and had kids and all that stuff. We've heard it all.
Yeah. Were they lovers?
Well, I see what you have. Gospel of Mary.
Yes.
So that is one. Now
that's where it really comes from.
So the Orthodox Catholics, they have the Apocrypha, which is not included in our Protestant Bibles. They still study for historical purposes, whatever.
Right.
And there's some debate there. I dig it. I study it. I like it as far as bringing some things to light or history or whatever. But the Gospel of Mary is not one of those.
That's the Gnostic.
Right.
Yeah.
So to make that differentiation, this and some of those Gnostic works, those were never included, right? Even in the Apocrypha, none of that. They've never been part of Scripture.
No, they didn't really show up until like the 5th century AD.
Okay.
But it's the earliest that anybody could find. But in the Gospel of Mary, this Gnostic text, and Gnostic with a G, we're not saying like nasty or naughty or whatever. Gnostic.
Naughty
book. But anyway, the Gospel of Mary, there's a page in there where it says that, and it says Jesus would kiss Mary on the, and then the page is moth eaten, so it doesn't say what, her knuckles or her ankles, her lips, whatever.
That's good. Hey, we're good right there. This is about to get crazy.
But yeah, it just says Jesus would kiss Mary on the and yeah. So, but the Gospel of Mary is where the idea originally came from, that Jesus and Mary Magdalene were lovers. Now I'm on. There's so many things that are wrong with the Gospel of Mary. So many things that are wrong. I'm only going to mention 2 of them, and that lays it out for me.
Sure. Okay.
Number 1 is attributed to a woman, written by a woman.
Okay. Now, why is that problematic?
First century women did not know how to read or write.
It's very cut and dry. Not being sexist.
No.
Right.
I mean,
that's just how it was in that time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Historically, women were not allowed to. Women just didn't read or write. That wasn't something that was ladylike to be.
Well, that, and also know that a woman's word was not admissible in court or testimony. So it would make sense that even if a woman wrote something that was accurate, probably wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah, it wouldn't be accepted.
Yeah.
And, and this goes back to why it was so amazing. It's so important that it was women who discovered the empty tomb.
Right.
That was, dude. But anyway, yeah. The Gospel of Mary is supposed to be an eyewitness, firsthand account of all these things. So Mary is saying Jesus used to kiss me on the, and then moth ate off the rest of it. But anyway, but first century, I guess it was a moth. I don't know. But the first century women did not read or write, and like I said, it just wasn't considered something that a woman did. But that would be like a man being a chef in first century. Men did cook. That's not manly like to prepare a meal for your women and your children and all that. So there were just certain roles, certain And that was one of the things.
Those are ones just the historical things that would discount it.
Yeah.
Its credibility.
Yeah. There's no way that a first century woman would have wrote it. Now, people will argue, well, no, she didn't put pen to paper. She dictated it, and someone wrote down what she said. And
Is that a possibility?
and I will grant you that it could be a possibility.
Okay.
So now I go to my other point. Like I said, I'm going to bring two up and shoot them both down. The other one is it was written in Coptic. Now, for those, if you never heard of it, Coptic is the last. It's the last language of Egypt, and it was Egyptian using Greek letters. It's the best way I can describe it. So
Yeah.
but anyway, it was written in Coptic, and the only people that wrote or spoke Coptic were Christian Egyptians.
Mm.
There were no Christians when Jesus was alive or immediately after. Immediately after his resurrection.
Well, at least in Egypt. Yeah. Don't.
Yeah, I about stepped into it.
They're gonna hang you on that word, man.
Oh, I'm telling you, they will. They'll clip.
But Coptic Christians are there in Egypt today.
Yes.
That's a movement. But like you said, at that time, the gospel had not spread. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I mean, didn't have time to spread by the time this would be written.
Yeah, there was no Christian. Christ was still alive. He's this Jewish guy, and walking around Jerusalem and whatever. It wasn't until after his resurrection, and after the Pentecost, the day 50 days later, that the spread of the gospel really took place, and you can really thank the persecution by the Romans, for the spread, the escaping persecution. So they was trying to stamp out Christianity, and they just fanned the flames. So, but anyway, it's written in Coptic, so that means that it had to be written by a Coptic person, which is a Christian Egyptian. Well, Coptic didn't,
it just didn't exist.
They didn't exist, and they didn't
weren't
exist
there.
when Mary died,
Right?
So there's no way that you could say that. Well, it was a Coptic that Mary dictated it to, and they wrote it down, because they didn't exist until well after Mary then passed. And then you get to it was really written in Aramaic, and then it was translated into Coptic later on. I'm like, you grasping straws at that point. I mean, you can origami, you can origami anything there.
Well, if people are familiar with this at all, they'll be familiar with the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah.
Right? The kid back in the 30s or 40s is playing soccer.
Dr. 48.
Let's see, he's a theologian, man. He's a scholar. But he kicks the ball into the cave, and he finds it in the pots. He threw a rock. Whatever. But when he did find the Dead Sea Scrolls, he found some of the apocryphal books in there. Isaiah, I think it was, the Gospels, and these things predated what they had at that time. Well, 1,000 years or something crazy?
Yeah.
Because I remember a lot. The study I've done on it is that a lot of the atheists, archaeologists, scientists, whatever, were like, "Yes, we're going to debunk Scripture."
Yeah.
But it actually confirmed it. It was almost perfect the way it lined up.
Yeah.
So that's been the big thing to say, well, why is the Bible correct, and how can we trust it? Because it's been unchanged. And you can take a text from this century to this century, and they've been virtually unchanged.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So to see something like this that is completely the opposite of what the eyewitnesses, like the gospel writers and people like that, saw, right?
Right.
So that's what discredits it as well, because everything else kind of flows together almost perfectly, and this is so out in left field.
Right.
You agree with that?
Oh, yeah. It absolutely was. There's no doubt that it was a Coptic. It was a Christian Egyptian that wrote this fan fiction, I think.
Well, I was going to say, I'll say this too. You got to understand that there's a lot of people that wanted to squash the movement of Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I think you said it best. There weren't even Christian. The word Christian was a derogatory term.
Yeah.
And an insult.
Yeah,
So I
slur.
think, it was a slur. And I think this was like a smear campaign a lot of times. It could fall into that. Could be.
Yeah, it very well could.
Could be well-meaning. Could not be. But
It wasn't, those that were Coptic, they were Egyptian. And thank you for putting me back on point. That's not necessarily to say that all Coptics were Christians.
right.
They were Egyptian. They
Yeah.
spoke Coptic, but there was a certain number of them that were Christian.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Well, if I was going to do a smear campaign against somebody, instead of standing on the outside like I'm the enemy and it's obvious and I'm throwing rocks, I'll be like, hey, no, man, I'm part of the movement.
Yeah.
Like I'm here. As a matter of fact, let me tell you a story. And then it completely, slanders the person's character. So I think that's why we have to be careful and take a look at the eyewitness accounts that we have versus the ones that were not and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
but no, you did a great job unpacking that one, man.
There's more to it, but I just picked two, and just all right. I'm gonna tell these two, and these two just shut it down completely. All right. The next thing is, why did Jesus start his ministry at the age of 30 when he was teaching at the temple when he was 12 years old?
Okay, I want to say this is my jam. When you showed this to me the other night, I was like, oh man, I got this one. However, I know you probably got something you're gonna throw at me.
No,
So I'm gonna
I'll
pull apart. What? Okay, wait.
Okay, well, the 12 years old, where that came about, if you don't know, they had traveled to Jerusalem, and when I say they, Jesus and his mom, and dad, and with a bunch of other folks, and they all get in a caravan, they all go, and they went to Jerusalem, and so anyway, on the way back, Jesus, he gets 12 years old, and he just kind of wanders off into the temple. And then mom and dad think that he's with some other family members because this is a huge caravan and all. And they've gone, I think it was 3 days.
I think it was
3 days. When it's like, where's Jesus? No, he's not with us. Hey, Martha, no, Bobby. No.
I forgot a kid once. Yeah. I'll tell you about it later, man.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, so they turned around, and it's not clear if the entire caravan turned around or if they just mom and dad. Yeah. But regardless, they turned around and went back, and they're going all over, and then they find him 3 days later now. So he's in the temple, and there's all these adults and this 12-year-old kid, and he's teaching them. Now that's where that come from. So, but I will say this. There's nothing supernatural about that. And the reason why I say that is because when I was 12 years old, and it's total coincidence, it was not really set up or anything, but when I was 12 years old, I taught adult men's Sunday school class. My dad at the time was the Sunday school teacher, and it was a room full of 40 and 50-year-old men, and
Old guys,
and had been Christian for, decades, and so, I'm not going to get into all the weeds of how it all came about, but
yeah.
Anyway, it came about that the opportunity for me to teach one of the classes, came up, and my dad sat down, and as he's just sitting there watching me, and but I was 12 years old, and I taught it, and not to pat myself on the back or anything, but the guys in the class had went to my dad and had said, hey, and your son, like, do this on a regular basis,
It's like, you're not as great as him.
Yeah,
Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly what he, kind of took play. Hey, wait a minute, I'm the one to taught him, But anyway, but what I'm trying to get at is that there was nothing supernatural about Jesus teaching at the temple 12 years old, because I did it, and there is absolutely nothing special about what I did.
Well, and I will say there's a debate on that too, because we always say that he was teaching at the temple, but actually he revealed scripture. Reading in it also says he was asking questions. and they were astounded by his knowledge.
Yeah. The questions that he was asking was provoking.
Right.
And basically, he was doing what we're trying to do here.
Exactly. Get you to think.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Get you to get. Let's take a little commercial break there. After Dark, first video cast. Is that what you call this?
Video cast?
Vlog.
There is a vlog, but this one,
I don't know. Well, what we're trying to do is to get you guys to stop and think and grow your faith yourself while we steer you in the right direction, right? So we give people things to chew on and think about.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, some of this, I don't consider it controversial. I don't say that. No, not just this one. I mean, all of it.
Well, I mean, controversial for us.
No, and I want it to stop being controversial for people.
That really is.
These are questions that you have, we have, other people have. If you have kids or grandkids, they have. We just want to not only just answer them, but encourage people to search scripture and dig deep. And not just even that, search scholarly works, read commentary, dig deep, but let it always point you back to the Bible because the answer's there. So yeah, some of this stuff could be controversial.
I think fried chicken doesn't fix everything. It's very controversial.
I wonder if Jesus was asking questions that they were going, man, kids shouldn't ask that kind of question.
I've been asking that myself for 30 years.
Yeah, maybe that's why they were astounded.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of this stuff, man. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
I know Rabbi Zacharias, I've said it before, bad rep stuff happened after the fact we found out about it. The title of his show was Let My People Think. I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Think. Why did Jesus start his ministry at 30? Now, I've taught on this before. It took me a while to dig into this. I got my theory from history, but you want to take it or?
No, go right ahead, bro.
I'm scared I'm going to be wrong, and then you're going to have to correct.
Yeah, you ain't going to be wrong.
This guy right here, man.
Oh, boy.
So Jesus, at the age of 30, if I'm not mistaken, he started his earthly ministry then because he had to be 30 to be considered a legit rabbi.
Exactly.
And if he would have started his ministry any earlier than that, that would have been one more roadblock to be taken seriously. So when the time was right, he started his earthly ministry at 30, and that's when he was able to pick his disciples.
Yes.
Right? So you got anything, and I'll share this.
He fulfilled the law.
He fulfilled the law. I think they're all a bunch of middle-aged guys. I don't think Jesus was white and feminine.
Well,
I
agree with you on that. I agree with you on that.
So hey, we'll get into that one later. That's chasing the rabbit, but that's something to think about.
Well, speaking of Jesus' appearance, what did Jesus really look like? Was he ugly, as Isaiah 53:2 says?
Well, does it say he was ugly?
Yeah, it pretty much does.
I'm looking it up.
Yeah, look at it because I don't misquote it. But anyway,
he was living here.
To me, the interpretation of 53:2 is that he was unremarkable.
Unremarkable.
No, he didn't have beauty. To me, it was painting a picture of someone that you're not going to follow because they're just gorgeous. No, kind of thing. He was unremarkable. But I also have some problems with 53:2 being Jesus anyway. But for those that believe that Isaiah 53 is talking about Jesus, all right, you want to read it?
I'm looking it up, and I already have the New King James up from the other day, so I'm gonna read that, and then I'll read it in like maybe ESV.
Yeah.
Okay. It says, "For he shall grow up before him as a tender plant, and as a root out of dry ground. He has no form or comeliness, and when we see him, there is no beauty that we should desire him."
Right.
So yeah, no beauty that we should desire him. Let's see what ESV says. More modern translation. Okay, "For he grew up before him like a young plant and like a root out of dry ground. He had no form or majesty that we should look at him, and no beauty that we should desire him." So basically the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if that means necessarily he was unattractive, but he wasn't like
he wasn't. If you're gonna accept, and I'm tipping my hand a little bit. If you're going to accept that 53:2 is talking about Jesus, no, it's not. He's not ugly. He's just unremarkable.
He's just a normal guy.
He's just a normal guy. He blends in with the crowd, just like everybody else, Now, I say, I have a problem with 53, Isaiah 53. The reason why is there is a school of thought that 50 Isaiah 53 is not talking about Jesus, but is talking about the nation of Israel. Now, if you go back, we always talk about context.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everything context. You have to go back to, I think it's chapter 45 where this begins. It's like a giant long poem, all these chapters, and the poem starts like chapter 45. And when it starts, it's directly addressing Israel, the nation.
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
And then part of the way, somewhere along the way, around 53, 54, somewhere around there, it talks about the deliverer and the deliverer of this person. And the deliverer is named Cyrus. Now, at the time that Isaiah, that was Israel was not the nation anymore. The Babylonians had come and conquered them, and taking them all back to Babylon with them.
Yeah.
That's something that they would do when you conquer a nation. You would take all the populace, and you'd bring them back that's your slave labor, and so they, it was like nobody left in Israel. They all the Jews were in Babylon. So anyway, and but it wasn't until King Cyrus was the first to allow the Jews to return home, or homeland, and that's referenced in Isaiah in this giant long poem. So there's a strong indication that Isaiah 53 is not talking about the Messiah, but talking about the nation of Israel. And her, her turning away from God, and then her being restored back, and all this. But yeah, there's certain parts that still reference the Messiah.
Yeah.
But the Messiah came from the nation of Israel, so there's a lot.
Well, I'm thinking about the first part that says springing up like a reed or a root or whatever.
Yeah.
A branch. And thinking about Israel, I was talking with a friend about this the other day. Excuse me. The Israel is a small country surrounded by countries and people that hate them.
Going to destroy them.
And they are small, but man, they're so powerful. And you would not expect that to rise up in the middle of all. So, I can see that correlation. I think I've heard that before.
Yeah.
But the question is, hey, real quick too, your wedding ring, that's nice.
Oh.
What's it made of? Gold? I didn't know, because mine is like titanium.
Oh, yeah.
Or one of those, but yours is shining a lot. I was just sitting thinking while you're talking.
Yeah.
Mine's not shiny. So anyway, that's chasing a rabbit. It caught my attention. And it's got nothing to do with this. I don't have a point to make. It's caught my attention. So it's got me. But do you think it could be, because sometimes in scripture we say things that could have multiple meanings, multiple references. Do you think that could possibly be both?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at is, the Messiah came from the nation of Israel.
Yeah.
So I think it could certainly, this long poem, be about the nation of Israel. Meanwhile, in the middle of this poem, here's the Messiah portion, and now we'll continue on. That's very. I'm not dogmatic to say that Isaiah 53 is not about speaking about the Messiah. I just I'm always open. You are as well.
Absolutely.
To being wrong, and for years I always said that Isaiah 53 chapter 53 was talking about Jesus. I'm open. The other side of it saying it's the nation of Israel, it's very valid and solid argument.
Yeah.
To it.
But I will say this. I will go here and say this, man, that anytime you read in scripture about Jesus and people being astounded by him and amazed by him, it's kind of like when he was 12, it's because of the knowledge, the compassion that he showed, the miracles that he performed and stuff like that. But I've never read where anybody was blown away by how he looked.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah, he was unremarkable, and so and I think we went a little backwards on this with the question. Well, it's what did Houston look like? Well, was he ugly? Like, and then we just kind of jumped on Isaiah, but what did he really look like? I got a question. Your opinion, the Shroud of Turin, is it authentic or forgery?
put me on the spot with that one, man. We honestly have no clue. We have no way of knowing.
We don't.
But from everything that I've seen and heard and all the tests and stuff, there's something to it. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
If anything, I would lean toward it's legitimate than not. We don't really know.
Yeah.
But I lean toward, yeah.
You and I are in the same boat. You explained it exactly the way I would. I lean toward it being authentic. Just because there's something, like for instance, the X-ray and how it forms a 3D. You can't, they can't even reproduce that.
Really, even now.
Well,
wasn't there some DNA, blood, something like that?
There was blood on the shroud, but they're not allowed to test it.
Really?
Yeah, they were not allowed.
That'd be so cool if they did though. And I wonder why not.
To be honest, they've got nothing to gain from it because.
But everything to lose if it's.
Yes,
I got
exactly. I mean, if it validates it, it's, well, we told you so, and if it doesn't, they've lost,
everything.
Whatever. A couple of things that, that I really, I think about is like, the placement of the wounds.
Yeah.
If it was a 14th century,
I know where he's going with this.
It would have been in the palm of the hand. And that's, all those paintings that was the palm. That's what they did. But
watch the camera.
Oh, we do that.
That's what that's not doing this.
We do it again. But that's the palm. That's the palm right there. But we know now that, it was driven through the wrist, and because there's a certain nerve in there.
In between the two bones. So they can pull up.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was part of the torture, was that in order to breathe, you had to pull up, but it was on the nerve, and that was excruciating. So no matter what you did, right?
Yeah, you even said it, excruciating. That word did not exist prior to the Romans. The Romans didn't invent crucifixion. They got it from the Greeks, who actually got it from, I think, the Syrians or Syrians. Yeah.
Well, they kind of ran together too, Babylonian, right?
Yeah.
But it was,
they're all
yeah.
The same litter of kittens, but but the Romans took it and perfected it.
Yeah,
maximized painted,
and torture
for as long as possible. Now, because of that, and because of the pain and suffering that someone who's crucified went through, they invented a new word, and it was only used for someone who was crucified. And that word is excruciating.
Wow.
Never existed before then. They invented it. They invented it for crucified people.
I did not know that. And the thing what you're saying about the wrist too is that if this was some, what'd you say, like a 15th century thing or whatever you said, or whenever it was, but the Shroud of Turin shows the wrist.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So see, stuff like that makes me lean toward everybody up to that point. Like, yeah. So there's a lot of little things in there that I look at and I go, I wouldn't have known this prior,
right?
Because it didn't line up with any of their traditions at that moment. So what's your point with this then?
You
think this?
Look, the Shroud of Turin, if we are to,
if we accept it,
okay, he was 5'10" tall.
I'm 5'9", man.
Yeah,
you're there together.
I'm following you. But now the average Jew in that time was between 5'5" and 5'8".
Okay,
so he would have been a little bit taller than. But also the Shroud of Turin, his body shape and all, he was not the frail, anemic, portrait that you see. Again, if it's a 14th century forgery,
Yeah.
he would have looked like that.
There you go.
That's their,
That's time back of the other. Yeah.
that's their image of it. And, but what did he really look like? Well, first of all, Jesus was a carpenter, and that was manual labor.
Right.
And, so he couldn't have been frail. He wasn't a very good carpenter. And two, he walked all over the nation, for 3.5 years, just, with
And just to clarify that,
active lifestyle.
yeah, and you've been over there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So just to clarify, this is not, when we think Mideast, not desert, like flat.
Yeah.
And Israel is mountains
Yes.
and hills and stuff. So he's up and down. And the other thing is this: I did a study on Joseph once to do a men's thing, right? And I was like, let's talk about a good earthly father. God trusting him to raise his son. And he was a carpenter. But if you go back and study, there wasn't a lot of trees over there.
Yeah.
Most of their structures were built out of stone.
Right.
So a carpenter was also a stonemason.
Mm.
So they would be just as adept at carving rocks into bricks and stuff, kind of like what Delroy did. They would be just as adept at that as they would be taking a tree and making a beam.
Yeah.
So we always think Jesus made stools and tables. And he probably did. But he also probably fooled with. So in other words, he is moving some heavy weight around.
Right.
And he's walking everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's eating like fish. So I'm thinking to myself, this dude was probably more like a UFC fighter, WWE wrestler. He was a man's man.
Yeah. And 2 points is that. One, he turned over the money changers table.
And I've always said, what was it about him? They had guards in the temple.
Yeah.
What was it about him? They said, we ain't messing with this one guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they brought, not to get way off base here, but when they come to arrest Jesus in the garden, it was some scholars believe it was upwards of 600 Roman soldiers.
Really?
600
At the temple?
Well, they no, in the garden.
In the garden. Oh, my bad. I have heard that. I have heard that.
And the reason why they thought that they would be in an uproar and a rebellion, because there was a lot of zealots that were and Judas Iscariot was one of them that believed that of overthrowing the Messiah was coming to overthrow the Roman government, and armed rebellion, and so the Romans were, well, he's the central figure. He's the one that they think is going to, and so they thought if we do arrest him, there'll be an armed rebellion or whatever. But anyway, getting back to Jesus's physical appearance, so he overturned the money change table. Now, if I can, I know we're running a little long, but if we can, I really want to just talk about that just for a moment. And it's what made him so mad. When you go to the temple, if you're going to make a sacrifice, well, there's 2 things. One, you give money to the temple. Well, let's say, and I'm going to use we're going to use dollars because that's what. But let's say you got a $50 coin. Okay, now that's all the money you got in the world. You got to live off that until whenever you get paid again. Yeah. But you got to make your tribute to the temple as well.
Okay.
But I only got this one coin. But you go to the money changers, and it's a courtyard. If you think about it, it's like the parking lot of the church. Okay, and so. And
the outer court is what they would call it, right? That's where they were at, outer court.
Yeah. And so that's where the tables were, the money changers were. And he would go, you'd be a money changer, and I'd say, here's a, $50 gold coin, and you give me $40 worth of silver coins back. You charge me $10 to exchange the money.
Okay.
Now, for you to operate at a church, in the church parking lot, you would give some of that money to the priest. And he puts in his pocket.
Okay.
So you'd split that $10. He and the priest would get maybe 4 of it, whatever. So
priest is doing some fantasy football.
He goes right into his pocket, right? Doesn't go into the church, And so that's number one. Now, also, let's say you bring in a sacrifice. You bring an animal to sacrifice. Now, the animal has to be inspected by the chief priest. Well, one of the priests. They say the chief priest, but during, I hate to say it this way, but during high volume days, they delegate. But anyway, they'd bring the animal, and it had to be inspected.
Yeah.
And well, the priest would always find something wrong with it. There would be a blemish or something. This bird's got a broken wing, or this lamb has a little bit of black right underneath this eye, or whatever. It's like, there's something wrong with
crooked priests, man.
Yeah. So what they would have to, you got to bring me a perfect animal. Now, these money changers just so happen to have animals for sacrifice, and they've already been inspected.
Oh yeah, they're already going to pass.
They're already good to go. They're good to go. So you would then have to go to the money changers and buy one of their animals at 3 times the price. You get a $10 dove, and you're paying $30 for it, and then taking it and having it sacrificed. Now, again, the profits of the animal sacrifice, the priest then rejects the animals, and you have to go to the money changers and buy their animal, and the money changers give you, as a priest, give you a kickback from that.
Wow.
So there's a lot of money laundering.
A lot of funny business right there, right?
A lot of funny business.
You said money laundering?
Yeah.
It may happen today.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of bad things happen in the name of religion.
Yes. Yeah, they do. And God will not tolerate it. I agree. He got really mad. And that's why he got mad, though. He got mad because they're in the...
Well, when he said a den of thieves now makes a lot more sense. That they were dealing from everybody, really.
And they're doing it being pious and, holy, and, no, you're not, how you're so mocking God, and and that ticket. Now, those tables were huge. They were. Yeah.
I've never looked at the tables. I never thought about the tables.
I won't tell you how heavy they were. Google it. And
can I Google it?
Google it.
Let me Google it.
You can Google it right now while I continue to talk.
The merchants' tables weren't little temporary folding tables. Rather, they were massive tables made of heavy wood, maybe even marble, and Jesus turned them over. It was complete chaos as doves flew out of their cages and money flew everywhere. So the only thing I can think of is that shameless plug, Midway Barbecue Union.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that owns it has these big butcher block tables around it. We're like back in the day when it was a legit butcher shop 70 years ago. Yeah. You've seen them.
Yeah.
Not the ones that ladies like to put on countertops now. I mean, they're like this thick of just pieces of wood. And he told me one day, like, man, try to move it. And I'm literally like, I can't budget. Mm-hmm. You and me and 3 other guys. It was like, he said he got somebody to bring it in with like a forklift or something. Mm-hmm. So now, and I say that because Casey's always wanted to buy one. And I'm like, number one, he ain't gonna sell it. Number 2, I can never move it.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking to myself, were these things like that 1 or 2 grown men couldn't hardly budge them? How heavy were they?
They were between 600 and 1,000 pounds.
And Jesus flipped
them.
600 to 1,000 pounds.
600 to 1,000 pounds. Yes, it's the estimates.
So not the meat,
depending on if it's marble or wasn't. Yeah.
Still, man, good gosh.
Yeah. If they were marble, it's closer to 1,000. If it wasn't marble, it's closer to 600.
So when we say Jesus was like cornbread fed, I mean, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
He was not a guy that would come in, like we said, and you would go, oh, man, he is so, he just stands out of the crowd so much. Right. Not necessarily by the way he looked, but also he was a really strong, everyday, hardworking, blue-collar guy.
Yeah, he was just...
And he's stronger than the average.
Yeah, he was stronger than the average man because he... And honestly, I think that's why they, like the guards...
And that would why Laurel says,
like, no, I'm good because, they just saw this dude flip this table.
If you flip something that's at least 600 pounds, I'm not grabbing him.
No.
I'm like, you grab him.
Yeah, no.
You know, I'll back you up. So now it makes a lot more sense.
Anyway, that's all the questions. Phil, thank you for submitting that. And for relatively out there, you got questions, send them to us. And we'll hash it out. We'll talk about it.
Hey man, I hope we did a good job. This is very interesting. So I'm really pumped about it, man. So
Yeah.
great.
And thank you for watching us, our very first video.
I'm going to say this even though we don't have it ready yet, but it will be eventually on YouTube and stuff, I guess. Right?
Yes, yeah.
So like, share, and subscribe.
There you go.
I've always wanted to say it. I never do. So don't do like me. Like, share, and subscribe.
There you go.
Tell some people. Share it with some people for real. We want to get the word out. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. By the time they're watching this and or hearing this, it'll be out there. So
sweet.
All good to go. So you got anything else?
No, man. I am good. I've learned some stuff today. I hope our viewers and listeners have learned some stuff. This has been one of the more fun ones.
Yeah,
you know, and when some of the ones we do are heavy.
Yeah.
This is pretty fun.
Yeah. Well, you got the first one in there.
Hey.
Yeah.
And I will say to people just to know we're open. We'll tackle any subject.
Yeah. Nothing is off topic.
You know. So
appreciate you.
Yeah, man.
You've been listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint. I'm Clint. He's Jamie.
Still.
We'll see you next time. Until then, tell your mama I said, hey.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Well, come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that same old place, sweet home, Chicago.
You've been listening to After Dark with Jamie and Clint. Visit our website at www.adwjc.com. This is Delroy. Until next time, thanks for listening.